So this is my friend Paulette. I love her, known her for ages and ages. We were talking earlier about just creativity and vision. I think what we're gonna just blurt out some of our thoughts on obstacles to creativity. For example, what you're working on right now. Tell me what happened in order for you to get to that point of starting a new project and the obstacles you faced to start a whole new project, and what your thoughts were behind it.
Okay. Well, first of all, the thing that always drives me is the desire to be in a creative experience with many people.
Yes.
And so I directed a couple shows. One was The Christmas Carol and the other one was The Gospel According to Scrooge.
What's your background? Is it theater mostly? Or
Yeah,
musical
theater. Mm-hmm.
So with theater, musical theater, or?
Musical primarily, and really not only primarily. I don't know, is there any other kind of theater?
Is there any other kind?
So anyway, I wanted to direct, and so I've been directing different things along the way. And so one day, literally, a whole thought was dropped into my mind about this show that I am writing right now. And it's a musical, and I'm not a songwriter, so to speak, but the obstacles that you're talking about have to do with, am I too old? Will there ever be enough money? Will people ever want to do what I'm doing? Will my people please come to me?
Yeah.
And so I really had to come to a place. Well, last year I got involved in an internship, and I decided to write for that internship to really hone in on the first fourth of that play, of the one that I'm writing. So that it kind of forced me into the place of having characters, and so I was going to do it as a reader's theater, but still have the music and all that. And in doing that, I faced every obstacle. It was...
You faced every obstacle. And before we go on that list of obstacles, because we only have a short amount of time today, I want to go back to the age thing. Okay, so that is one of the obstacles, and I just want to say something about that, and that is this. From the age of 13 years old, I felt it could have been, self-imposed or not, a pressure to get things done because there wasn't enough time. Because I was too old. I was getting old. 13 years old. Yeah. I was like, oh, I'm too old to do this now. Oh, I better quickly do this before I turn 15, before I turn 16. And that has always been. If you have 60 seconds left on this earth, there is something beautiful and creative and impactful and influential you could do. And so that is something that still is a battle with me. All these years, it's still something, a thought I have to cast down. So that's going on the list. Age is on the list, and then we're crossing the list out, that off the list, because it should not be a factor. Okay, so what else?
Okay, so people,
having your team, you mean? So expound on that.
So, you really, because I'm a collaborator, I really love creating an ensemble and creating a group of people who really want to work together, love working together, that kind of thing.
And that's how we met.
And so the not having the right people is a huge obstacle.
So same here is, we both love the whole teamwork, hunker in the bunker, as she would say, thing. Let's hunker in the bunker. And we had amazing experiences working within our creative group. And once you do that, you get spoiled.
Oh my gosh.
And once you don't have that, it's challenging. We both work well together alone also. But not having your people, or not having the people, is challenging. And so that's one of the obstacles, seemingly.
You don't. Okay, so the obstacle is you don't have your people, so you do it yourself.
Exactly.
And you make a decision. I can't breathe or live until I do this.
Yeah. And that's the same here. We're both working on projects that are larger than ourselves, larger than our abilities, larger than our resources. And which is amazing. God loves that when we have to rely on Him for those things, for wisdom and for resources. But we're both doing it by ourselves because there's really no other option. So for me personally, it was an obstacle that's become, it's also such a blessing. I've always worked alone and work well alone. I prefer to work with the people. But we're all scattered around the United States right now. And so you do what you have to do. So whether it's a short film or whether it's a full-length musical or whatever, you start with yourself. And she said earlier, like, if I have to play 5 roles, I'm going to do it. And birthed out of those things come even more amazing things. So a quick short story is, I think I told you this, and this is a shout out to Craig Rice. I asked him how he gets funding and people for his projects. He said, I never know how I'm going to do it. So he starts a parade. And I'm like, what do you mean you start a parade? And he says, I just start marching by myself. I don't know how it's going to get done. I just have this idea. I have this vision. It's solid, and I know I'm supposed to do this. And I do whatever I can in that parade by myself. I start marching, and pretty soon I look behind me, and there's a person behind me marching. And then I'm marching, and then I look behind me, and there's 10 more people. There's like a parade developing here. And by the time his route is over, he has the whole crew, all the people. So I think part of that parade is us just starting with what's in our hand.
Yeah, I mean, I have to jump in there because I would see, you know, like I saw a gal one day and I said, hey, do you want to do something dramatic with me this summer? And she said, well, what is it? And so I told her, and she and her sister joined me, and they did the first one. And so then the second time I saw this gal, I stayed after church one day and she was there, and I haven't seen her for over a year, and I said, hey, would you like to do something dramatic with me? And she said, well, what is it? And so it was one of those things where I had decided I'm going to do it by myself, but if the door opens, and it's like God had already brought them across my path in an unusual way. And they joined me, and I've done 2 Readers Theaters now.
So you make a really good point, and some of you may have seen, there's a meme and an article going around about a multi-millionaire, billionaire that we all know, who he was being asked advice on, you know, getting things done. And what is the biggest piece of advice you would give people? And it's the ask. Us asking people. I don't know about you, but to ask people, and especially if I don't have funding, could you do this for free? That's really tough. But I think we need to do that more, especially as Christians. We're supposed to ask, we're supposed to keep knocking, even if it irritates people. Because vision actually means, biblically, it means divinely imparted vision from God. So it's not even ours. It's something, a gift that He imparted in us. And so we are required. It's like a requirement for us to fulfill this. So if He imparted that, then there are resources. So the ask, you asking those 2 ladies, the ask is a huge part of it that I need to master.
I actually think it's the asking is when you're walking it out and saying that God is completely, He's for me. And He's for the whole experience. And so, okay, so right now I'm going to do it alone. And actually something happened the other day. I was at my husband's hair salon talking to a gal, and I was saying, you know, what a wonderful voice she had, because she was actually in a show that I had directed. And so I started talking to her about her voice. I said, oh my word, you should be singing, and etc. And then I felt prompted to ask. And so I said, you know, you and your kids are so amazing. So would you guys like to do something dramatic with me? That's kind of my question. And she really perked up.
Which you asked.
But I asked, and it's those kind of, they're kind of unique situations. Like what I did was I opened a door by saying I'm open, you know, because I said, okay, I'm going to do this no matter, but I said I'm open. And so then the door is open, and then people start coming across your path, and then it comes to your mind, oh, Okay, well, would you like to do something dramatic with me?
I'm going to use that, by the way.
I hope you do.
And you just reminded me of something else, and that is, I was reminded by a mutual friend of ours that, you know, to ask more, and the reason to ask more for our case especially is their point was, look, if you have a great track record and a great reputation, if you have integrity and people know when they have worked with you and you're, you know, that you are amazing to work with, and your work has substance to it, it's fun to work on your sets or your stage or wherever, they'll most likely say yes, because it has so much to do with relationship too. And so we need not be as afraid to ask when we have those characteristics and when we have those practices. So I need to get over myself. I know I do. I don't know if you need to get over yourself, but you probably do.
Well, I have to say about the asking that I love this concept, which is that on the other side of my asking may be an answer to their prayer.
Yes.
Because they actually, you know, like, if God said that this is what I'm supposed to do, then he's also saying, I'm providing. But not only that, but he's saying to other people, get into position, because you're about ready to do what you want to do.
Yes.
That has to do with what she's doing, finally.
Yes. And sometimes that person you're asking, they have either been yearning for that, or they didn't know they were yearning for that. And so an example is, I didn't know I was called to be an editor and a graphic artist. I didn't even know how to use a computer at the time. And someone asked me, and I was like, I'll try it. And it ended up being a part of my calling. It's been a part of my life for years. But they asked on a whim. They didn't really know me, but they knew I was creative, you know? And so I do think that's the topic. Should that be the title? What should be the title of this? The Ask? should we change the title of this bugger? Because that's so good. So we're talking about obstacles to creativity, and I think that's our point. One of the obstacles is our own selves, that we don't reach out. Why don't we reach out, though? Do we think people are going to say no? Like, why don't we reach out?
Well, let's talk about that. Okay, so first of all, we think that maybe they won't like it.
Right.
Secondly, it's too much of a commitment for them.
Yeah.
It'll be too much time.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't want to ask them because it's 4 rehearsals and
That's a
they're
big
3
one.
hours long and they're not going to get paid. And
Yeah.
you know,
And that's mine, is money. Because people get motivated. You know, we all should be paid. We all should be paid our value. There should be an equal exchange between what they're doing and money. And I never want to not pay people.
Yeah, me too.
But sometimes as valuable or more valuable is the experience together, you know. And we have things that we've done together where the memory of it is so valuable. I want to cry right now.
Yeah, me too.
Like, we talk about our past experience of working for free together, and we were in the trenches together, and now we're family.
Yeah, so true.
Yeah. So the why behind it is because of fear. It's fear of them rejecting it, fear of possibly because of schedules. That's a big one. They may not like the project. If they don't like the project, they don't have to do the project.
Right.
Right.
Well, another one would be that they don't feel that they're qualified. You know, like that's something that when I was in these conversations each time, each of those conversations I was able to say, you know, because actually all 3 of them had that kind of a response of, well, I don't know, I don't really act or whatever. And I said, well, actually the beauty of this experience is that part of the experience is a mentorship, and I will be, you know, acting as sort of a mentor, but we'll be working together. It's such a collaborative effort. But when I would put it in the terms of, you don't, you know, literally, this is not about how talented you are, it's about how willing you are. And so the talent comes when you're willing.
That's awesome. Ooh.
Yeah. Woohoo.
I like that. Okay, so we're going to wrap this up. And how are we doing? 3 minutes. Yes, we got 3 minutes. That was beautiful. The moral of the story is we have no excuse. We have no excuse not to ask, not to reach out. And so Christians, we all know better. Again, we are to ask and keep on asking until this is if it is divine vision, if this is a calling, if this is a project that is going to that you know it's going to benefit people. It's yes, it's beneficial to people. That's a huge one. There's no excuse to not ask, to not reach out. I am so convicted right now. I am. I'm so bad at it.
Oh.
Because I think I'm bad at it not because of the reasons, most of the reasons, but because I love people's talent and their time so much. I want to give them that or greater in the form of moolah.
Yeah.
I want that for them because we should all be making money off of our crafts.
Wow.
And so I want it so badly, it has actually undermined my asking.
And the possibility of it undermines the experience that they could gain from being with you.
And me with them, and just the whole relational thing that is so valuable when it's the right concoction of people.
It is.
What are your last words?
My last words have to do with the only obstacle that we have is really ourselves, because God has already defined. He's defined it according to Psalm 139. Our lives have a path, and and it's those desires that are that path, and we are the only ones who can stop that.
Yeah.
But we can also start it and go for it.
Yes.
And that is, I'm determined.
And I have so many last thoughts, but I think one is, and it might be a little out of context, but it's the time is short.
Yeah.
We have to take every opportunity, and it's not guaranteed we're going to be here tomorrow to create or whatever is on your heart. We don't know. So the 30 seconds or the 30 days we have got to take full advantage of it. No excuses.
Glory, hallelujah.
Boom!
Wait, let's do that again.